kind of what she did, because she did an amazing job of following up with people and making sure people came in.
Okay, so yeah, basically what I did is we had a sign-up sheet that was on our website and that was being advertised through each of our shelters, because we're a group of 3 shelters. And then I first sent the link to the signups for the holidays program to all of my original fosters, although we also realized most of the signups were people that haven't fostered before. So whether it was, our marketing or, our original fosters, like actually reaching out to other people, we got some additional support. And then for each of those 88 people, I actually went down the list and I just gave them a call, or I texted them if, they didn't respond. And then to anyone else, like, a week later that I still hadn't heard from, I actually, just sent out a mass email to everyone who still hadn't signed up for an appointment. And I didn't receive any complaints about like badgering people too much or anything like that. And I think just like a positive personality, like along with it, really went a long way. And, really just helped facilitate the program for people, because a lot of people I think signed up for it, but never really like, really understood what they were getting into. So being able to like ease some fears and stuff, I think helped retention, both like, in appointments and keeping fosters longer. I guess that's really it.
How did you select the dogs? Like, how did that whole process work, selecting and matching and stuff?
Yeah. So, I mean, we had a fair amount of signups that were like, I only want a small dog, which obviously for most municipal shelters is not going to be the likelihood of what we have. So for matchmaking, I really look for the environments where I think the dog would do, like where our dogs would do best. We, at the beginning of our holidays, had close to 270 dogs in the shelter. So, I had quite the selection. And, our forms like actually had like, what's your like preferred energy level, stuff like that. And I would actually like talk to people. A lot of my dog decisions, like matchmaking choices, I'll make in the moment as opposed to planning out ahead of time. Because like, I obviously don't like, I want to prioritize those dogs getting adopted if I can. So I try and make those decisions in the moment for the dog that needs it the most. So I'm more likely to match a dog's personality with a family that I think they'll do well in, as opposed to take what a foster family wants. Like they want a calm old dog, but they have an environment that, if they were given a younger dog, like they're not going to complain about it. If their dog has a bit more energy, it's not going to like, upset their lifestyle or anything like that. So it was a mixture of sending out dogs that have had foster experience, if people were really, really set on, I need potty trained, I need like very certain things, and dogs where I didn't know about them, but, being able to say, hey, you are going to learn information about this dog and it's going to be great. And more often than not, those are the dogs that ended up staying long-term, and the dogs that ended up getting adopted by the families were the dogs that we knew nothing about. So that was really exciting.
Awesome. I have one question, and that is, where did it go? Sorry. Oh, so the people who, they'll write in and say like, we want a small dog, and then they'll sign up. Like, how do you message that? How do you message that? Like, this dog actually needs you more, and you'd be great for them. Like, how do you do it?
A lot of the times, so I'll just start off by saying our small dog needs are mainly behavioral based fosters, because our small dogs, even with minor behavior issues in the shelter, tend to get adopted even before their stray hold is up for us. So we don't have a dog that fits that criteria. However, if you'd be able to go a little heavier than that, 35, 40 pounds, I'll always say, and then I'll give them a 50-pound dog and they'll be like, oh, this dog's smaller than I thought it would be. So I think people, I think a lot of times when people say they want small dogs, they're thinking the small dogs are less work, when more often than not, that is not the case. And, you know, I always try and sell them with a good point that I learned from someone is bigger dogs have bigger bladders. So you don't have to worry about letting them outside as much. You know, and a lot of times bigger dogs also, you know, still just want to hang out and cuddle with you. You know, they aren't always going to, you know, necessarily also be like bigger equals bigger energy. Because I think that's what a lot of people who want small dogs think. Or they think that they aren't going to be cuddle buddies and stuff like that.
That is a really, really good point. Kay asked a question, but it's on the website.
I have a question.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
So would you say that in general, you actually didn't give them the dog they request,
Okay.
but it ended up really well?
Not necessarily like,
Okay.
not necessarily like totally avoiding what they want.
No. Yeah, no. I'm just saying that you don't have what they ask, right? So you give them something else, but they like it just the same.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I still try and like, you know, take into account what their lifestyles are like and like what their plans were for the holidays, stuff like that. Like someone wanted to go on a 14-mile hike on Thanksgiving. So I tried to give them a dog that I think could need that as opposed to like, you know, a dog that could laze around with them. And, you know, I think people, when they first go into fostering, will sometimes try and put emphasis on certain parts of fostering that they think are requirements. And then once they meet the dog and realize like how much better this dog's going to do out of like the shelter environment and stuff like that, they'll realize that like what they actually want from fostering is a little bit different than like what their initial thoughts are.
Thank you.
Good point. Any other questions?
I might have missed it earlier. How many animals did you put out and how many do you have in the shelter?
Yeah, do you mind also redoing or telling us again the stats, because I forgot to record earlier.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so this was just Fulton's stats. I don't have the stats for the other two shelters. Our goal was 20. So we had 88 people signed up, that's who filled out an application. Of those, 50% made appointments, which is probably pretty good. Of those, 39 picked up. So 39 dogs left. 7 of those were adopted by their foster. 7 were adopted by other people. 11 people continued fostering, which brings us to 64% that stayed out of the shelter. 14 dogs returned. And of those 14 dogs that were returned, 9 were adopted at our big adoption event, using information that we found out about them in the home. So it was overall a pretty good success.
Another thing I'll just quickly add is we did have a couple of hiccups that, you know, they brought the dog home and it wasn't a match. And, you know, sometimes that happens, like, you know, it's just going to be one of those realities of like matching people with fosters. So if that was the case, you know, most of those people we were able to say, okay, like what were your problems, and then match them up with another dog that same day that they were bringing the other dog back. And for some other people, you know, it was like, you know, they were upset and like embarrassed that they're bringing the dog back early. So I gave them the option of, you know, either picking up the dog now or waiting a couple days, and they could come back and sign up for another appointment later. And we did get a couple takers on that ended up turning into long-term fosters from that. So, you know,
that's a really good point. I feel like that could easily like scare somebody off if they aren't like handled in the right way.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Julia.
Yeah, so it's 39 dogs that went out, but you get to select from a pool of 270 dogs, right?
Yes.
Almost. Some of our dogs some of the dogs in our care may not be available. So they may be on court hold or stray hold or not altered. But since we had the adoption event coming up, almost all our dogs were already altered that were available. So how many do you think, Daisy? Probably a good 200 dogs.
Probably, yeah.
Almost all of those being medium to large, blocky headed dogs. Very few anything else.
Hi, I have a question. This is Kay. Can you share how you kept track of the characteristics of the dogs that were eligible for foster? So that if you had someone, for example, who wanted a dog that was good with kids or good with other dogs, you could immediately go to those dogs.
That is, so right now with all the dogs that we have, we're currently setting up a new system and we're using Asana. So we basically have a card for every dog and volunteers or staff can make notes in it. So if we get email, like if a dog has been out in foster or we have an incoming dog form that we get information on, that anybody turning in a dog knows, like if they are stray, we ask questions. If they're returns, we ask questions. If they're everything. So we try to get information from the beginning. And so we all our staff has access to all of those things. So it's really just a big culmination of a lot of different things that we're all trying to get into Asana so that everybody can just look in one place now.
And what is Asana? Can you spell that?
It's like Trello,
Okay.
but we switched over to Asana just because a lot of our teams use it for other things, and it's a little more flexible as far as what we wanted to use it for. But our board we have every dog in our care on our board, and then we can add pictures, video, so anybody that's if rescue's looking at a dog, they could go in and look and get information, or if foster's looking, we can go in and look and see if anybody's made notes.
I don't want to get too much into the weeds, but does that communicate with your shelter management software or?
Of course not.
Oh, that's the problem we have. We don't have anything that can communicate apparently with pet points. So we have to recreate the, sort of the base, if you will. And there's a lot of resistance to doing that for obvious reasons.
You're welcome to email me. I've actually found a really easy way to, we're using Chameleon right now. So the process that I do, it is a little bit manual and it takes about 15 minutes every day to go through the manual steps. But the information that we're getting back is really, really worth it.
We're gonna
Great.
move on to Chris because we only now have half an hour. I don't know how that happened. I'm so sorry, everybody. But ask questions. You can ask them in the chat, and we will do our best to have a few minutes at the end to answer questions as well.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
All right, perfect. Yeah, my name is Chris. I run technically a nonprofit called OC Shelter Pets. We are a private shelter rescue and foster-based animal welfare rescue, but a lot of what we do is actual shelter and community support. Basically, all your primary elements of HOS that we see, we try to promote. And we did one thing for us directly. It was originally an experiment to do a holiday fostering. We called it Thanksgiving Doorbuster foster program. In essence, from Thanksgiving until Giving Tuesday, animals in our care would go to a temporary foster home. And we actually, because it was just experimental, it was a really low key marketing program. We just limited it to our own social media pages and then community focused Facebook groups, as well as Nextdoor, Patch, anything that's just basically within Orange County realm. And we actually got so much of feedback and foster applications. We reached out to some of the shelters we're already partnered with to see if they'd be willing to include some of their adoptable dogs into the program. Because currently we only have, it's a small private shelter we have, which only has about maybe 10 to 12 dogs at a time. And we had a large amount of foster inquiries to the point we were able to get from 6 of our dogs at our rescue into temporary foster. We were able to get another 14 from 3 other organizations to put 20 dogs into temporary foster homes. Now, it's a small number. The biggest thing to really point out is we have 12 shelters in Orange County that we participate with to help promote their animals and give the community whatever support it needs. They don't necessarily have open foster programs like we're talking about. They have your general foster programs, which are your kittens and your puppies and medical needs that would have healing. So if the animal comes in with like a sprained leg or something that's going to be quickly healed and then to available, those are the only foster programs they have available right now. We had a larger open foster program with one of our shelters, but unfortunately through staffing and COVID and executive changes that basically went this back down to your normal foster program. So while 20, in essence, it's a small number, the fact that we were able to get 16 publicly adoptable pets into temporary homes, but was actually a really good step forward. And especially since this was really, like I said, an experimental program, we just kind of put it out there for our dogs. And just because of the volume of contacts we got, we ended up reaching out to some of our other partner associates. And we did get few that were, as a previous speaker was saying, that were like looking for small dogs. We did get a few of those. However, we did have elderly, minor medical needs dogs that are still, sitting available for adoption. So we're able to get some, some smaller dogs that had minor medical ailments into temporary foster homes and give them the proper supply. Some of them need medicated bathing or, your usual gabapentin, Rimadyl, daily dosages and stuff. So we're able to supply them with all those needs. And then out of those 20, we had 5 got adopted during the temporary foster process. 7 requested to continue fostering their pet until it gets adopted. 2 were adopted to someone else while in foster. 2 more were adopted upon return. It's kind of one and the same because the 2 were from either posts or communications from the foster online where they saw the pet and then they were able to arrange picking it up when it went back to the shelter. And then out of those 20, at the end of the
Jesse, can we do our check-in?
out of those 20, at the end of the day, 4 ended up going back to the shelter. And now, ironically, we had 4 of our 6 get adopted. So we actually were able to transfer in those 4 that got returned to our organization. So those 4 technically that got returned, they didn't get returned back to the shelter. They're now back with us, where they're going to be, a little more quiet time. It's a smaller shelter. There's more one-on-one interactions with each dog. So it'll really kind of be a definite win-win to them as well.
That's amazing. So just quickly, like how do you work with the shelters and with foster? Like who is like the custodian of the pets while they're in the foster? Because it sounds like that it was a kind of an arrangement between the shelters.
Yeah, well, for OC Shelter Pets, it's a nonprofit I basically started. Luckily, it was just prior to COVID out of necessity. Myself and a few other members, we are all volunteers, trainers, behaviorists with different shelters here in Orange County. Like I said, we have 12. In Orange County, it's literally the smallest county in Southern California, but we're the 3rd most populated next to Los Angeles and San Diego, but we're the 2nd most condensed. So next to San Francisco, we're the most condensed in terms of population per square mileage. So we're like crammed in like sardines. And with the 12 shelters, it's luckily we're less than 1,000 square miles, Orange County itself. And to compare it to you, San Diego and LA, they're like 4,500 to 4,700 square miles. So we're a really small footprint with a lot of people. So we were able to have, we have different volunteers. Like I said, we go to shelters, not only assisting with your normal volunteer dog handling work with their adoptable pets. But then we also help out for training and behavioral modification work for your ones that are not yet available for adoption, or they might be rescue only candidates for whatever the reason might be. So we have our nonprofit that helps us go in a little above your normal volunteer spectrum to provide a little much more support that goes outside of your liability restrictions for a normal volunteer. And by doing so, which gets to this program, is we have members that have direct one-on-one exposure to all these animals. So when we put out like this foster plea, when we have more requests than we can handle and dogs that we don't have, but we know of like 800 dogs between Orange County, well, hey, there's 10 at 3 different shelters that'll totally meet this. So we're able to reach out to those different shelters to see if they would want to participate in the program. And then for this situation, we gave them all an option because like I said, there's 12 organizations. Some are your normal brick and mortar shelters. Some are just city contracted and they're actually technically a nonprofit entity. So we gave the shelters that we deal with frequently on a one-on-one level the option we could take over custodial requirements of the pet during foster care, or we could just give you the foster and be a bit of a mediator just to get all the information and just, be a counselor to that foster just to make sure that it's a good success. So we went a little above your normal requirements for a foster program, really because these were pets not directly in our care. And it was a bit of a foot in the door approach. We really want to make sure this is as easy of a transition for the shelters and these temporary foster offers, because if this becomes something successful, we could then go back and try to expand it a little more the next holiday, or just see if we could have just a bigger foster program. That way it's not just limited to your puppies and your kittens, because there's a lot of animals that would benefit greatly just by getting 2 or 3 weeks out of the shelter to go back and be able to just, have a sense of normalcy for another month before they get adopted, situations like that. So out of the 3 organizations, only one needed us to technically take over custody. So we did it as a partner adoption with an agreement and consent that the animal could possibly return. And we provided whatever food that was available, like ones in our care, we gave the foster the same exact food they're eating. So there's no, upset tummies or situations like that, as well as any supplies that they might have needed. If they didn't have a crate or a bedding or any kind of toys, we would provide that to them. And in our program, I guess the biggest thing is, well, actually, I have a PowerPoint. If you guys, I could show you real quick, if that's all right.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah.
Here, let me give you 1 second here.
Quickly, we have a couple of questions, but I'm thinking maybe we'll put them on hold after that, and then.
Sure,
okay.
I'll be real quick with this.
Cool.
All right, so you guys could see this, I take it? That come over all right?
Yes.
All right, beautiful. So, and again, this is the basic ad that we did for our Doorbuster Foster event. It was, like I said, it was a really simple post. It was just done off just an experiment. And our temporary program, like I said, through Thanksgiving to Giving Tuesday, rather than doing your typical fundraiser, we wanted to do this in advance as a way to kind of capture that same type of Giving Tuesday spirit of giving vibe, just to do something differently to help out. And so we sent out the basic at blast. People that would email, we would give them a general foster questionnaire, as well as have them let us know what need, what they would be comfortable with fostering, what type of dog. Some were pretty much open. They're like, anything, but I got, two dogs, a cat and a bunny, or whatever the case may be, or would I have kids? So we would really match one up that would be a good temperament compatibility for that home environment. And then when they would go into a foster home and get picked up, we would give them a general foster report card, as well as a direct a way of contact to getting photos and videos when they're out in that home. And then basically what we would do is, for the pickups and drop-offs, we had that set up where it was between 1 hour intervals between 10 and 2. They started technically on the 20th, that Saturday before we started hitting to the week of Thanksgiving until the day before Thanksgiving. And then from Giving Tuesday until this past Saturday, we were working with the drop off, because some people, they were willing just to watch their pet through the temporary foster for just a few more days. And like I said, the ad itself, I could show you one thing, just to show if it helps out, because we do a lot of marketing in my actual line of work, is it was a basic image. I'll get to that in a second, but there's actually a little bit of animation that went onto it. There we go, just to show you without the volume, just to help you guys, anyone out. If you ever put up like a photo, try to put some little animation on it. You'd be surprised how just that movement gets people's eyes towards it, which just gains your exposure towards it. So it was really just basic. It took 5 minutes to make the photo, and we just added a little intro animation to it. And you could do that for free in like Windows, the video editor app on like Windows 10 and above. So it's a really quick process. So we, like I said, we put that out there. Anyone who would pick up the animal for foster, we give them a foster report card to fill out, and then just send us photos and videos, whatever it is they could. And so an example of one, this is Marley, really cool 5-year-old German Shepherd that went to the program. This is an example of like photos we got and the foster report card. Anyone who's on like Maddie's Fund, I'm sure a lot of people have seen this type of temporary foster report card available. For example, Marley, he got picked up on 11/24. They brought him back the 3rd, which I think was Friday. And so there's a little bit of adjustments to that normal report card on Maddie's Fund, but basically it's this a couple different areas to get some input on, what did he do while he was with you? Describe him in the 5 best words. We kind of tell him, hey, just give me like 5 adjectives or verbs. Don't give me like a 5 word sentence. Some people do that, like, he likes to sleep a lot or something though. Like, just give me some really 5 words that describe him in terms of like adjectives or verbs or something. And then, what did he like to do in your home? And then just any additional information. And they give a grade, and then they would check off anything that was pertinent to the animal. So like Marley, he's housebroken, he knows commands, he walks good on leash, he likes meeting new people, he gets along with children, he likes to cuddle, he likes car rides, all that stuff. And so we would have the report card, the photos, and obviously with a pet, you have Chameleon, you have Shelter Love, whichever software us or the other shelters using, we know everything about that pet. So there's those 3 components. And the reason I just reiterate that real quick before I go to the next slide is because we would use all that information to make a printable ad flyer that's also photos and videos. This is just a basic template. It's literally just cut and paste with photos, the information about the animal and whatever CRM tool us or the shelter's using, and then whatever we got on the foster report card. So you could see all this stuff on here is just tidbits from the report card. The first paragraph is from the report card. Marley's always happy and loves meeting new people. And then we use those 5 adjectives to put in this little quote with the grade that he got. He's gentle, smart, happy, quiet, mellow. And then as well as the comments here are just copy and paste basically from the report card. And then we just unselect or deselect whatever items regarding like housebreaking or cuddling, whatever tidbits that they selected met his program. And so we would get this in a PDF to give for whatever print purposes the shelter wanted to use. Some are still closed, so not a lot of them, like having it on a kennel card is meaningless because there's no one walking around the shelter, but they could still use this as needed. So what we also do is we take all this same stuff and make a general slideshow with the photos that they gave. And again, this is like really simple. There's free video editor in Windows where you can just do this. You just drop the photos in there and say, make a slideshow, and then you have a slideshow. And so what we would do is by using that, we then paste that same video into that flyer. Whoop, sorry. And then you get the same thing in a video where then you could post that on your social media or just share it wherever the heck you want. So it's just, again, it's just added animation towards it. And it's just a way just to get that information out there. Hey, we have this pet available for adoption. It literally went to a home for 2 weeks, 10 days, whatever the case may be. And look at all this cool stuff we found out about him. And now he's back again. So it adds a great level of confidence towards someone else looking to adopt that pet. And it really just keeps retaining that foster as well, because if they see that you did all this stuff from the short time they had that dog, if it's a temporary foster, the chances of them coming back to watch one for another 2 weeks is like 10 times greater. And that's the one nice thing that we have about this. Like I said, we had 4 that came back that are still available. It was, I think, 8 in total out of our 20 temporary fosters brought the dog back in some form or fashion. They didn't adopt it or foster it continually. And almost all of those, they're willing to do it again, because there's a weird niche with your temporary fosters where they, they're not in a position to adopt a pet, to deal with the commitment, which is understandable. The long-term fostering is something they're just, they're hesitant towards, because they don't want to watch a dog for 3 months and then just have this this attachment to it where they never wanted to go anywhere or feel bad. So, hey, there's temporary fostering. And there's a lot of people out there, at least in Southern California, where they like doing this. They're able to give something back to the community. And it's kind of a non-obligational foster. They know there's a time limit involved. So they realize that it's not something that they're going to be stuck with for months or years. Well, again, I've fostered a lot of dogs. There's that basic commitment, but it's a weird little niche. And if there's people that want to do it and we could find pets to put into it, it's a viable solution for a lot of pets out there. And this goes back, here's just, I could only fit so many photos, but these are some of the guys that went into our temporary foster program. It was mostly big dogs and seniors, large seniors and small seniors. And so, like I said, out of the 25 got adopted, 7 stayed in foster, 2 got adopted by someone while they're in foster care, and then 2 got just picked up within the day or the day after they got returned. And then there's just 4 that were returned that we were able to just take in on our own from the 4 that we got adopted. And these were all just dogs hanging out. A lot of them were just your typical long stay dog, just whatever photos were from the website were just not really garnering enough attention. And these are like some of the examples that we got from the fosters in terms of photos and stuff that they sent for the pet.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Chris, if you don't mind putting your email in the chat.
Oh, sure.
I feel like I'm so sorry about the time that we're having to crunch it all in. I could have had probably all 3 of you do a whole a whole meeting on these. They're really cool programs. Any last words before we move on to Allie? If you think of it, put it in the chat. We're good. And then I guess, let's see, Allie, if you.
Yeah, I was going to share my screen as well.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if I can while he's sharing his though.
Oh, Chris, can you unshare? Is that possible? Thank you.
But my name's Allie. I'm with the Pensacola Humane Society. We're a small nonprofit private shelter in the Panhandle of Florida. And we started our, we call it SMAP. It's Save Me a Plate Thanksgiving Holiday Foster. We started it last year because of COVID, and it was really successful. So we did it again this year. And I'll share mine real quick. Okay. And I'm happy to share my whole drive with anybody that has any questions or wants to see what we did, but we started advertising November 1st and sharing a link on our social media just with our sign up sheet, which is just a breakdown of, your information, where you live, super important. Describe all the people that are going to be in the home and their ages, just so we didn't send any, unkid friendly dogs with homes with small children, any other pets that are going to be in the home, who you're wanting to foster, whether it's dogs, cats, or either. And then if it was dogs, it would drop down straight to this section, and just about what kind of dog you're wanting to foster, small dog, big dog, how many, are you okay with puppies? Are you okay with medical? And a little description of your ideal foster dog, because we, some people want excuse me, a lazy dog, and other people wanted to do more hiking and adventurous things. So, and then same for cats, you know, what kind of cats do you want to foster? Do you want to do kittens? Are you okay with medical? And then drop down to section 5 was just important holiday rules. Always keep them apart when you're feeding from any established animals or each other if they fostered more than one animal. Even like bedtime, unsupervised time, we encourage to keep all animals separate. If you wanted to sleep in your bed with your foster dog, that was fine. But if you have a resident dog, they had to be kept separate. And then not feeding them a bunch of table scraps because it's a holiday. So we have a handbook that we handed out as well with dog and cat safe options in case they wanted to spoil them a little bit. And then anything else we should know? Are you interested in fostering with us after the holiday period? And then how they heard about our program. And then once they filled that out, it would generate into our spreadsheet. And then this is where I would just kind of go through and see, you know, what kind of animal they're interested in, and then read through, and we would pair up. So we started advertising on November 1st. Everything closed down as far as being able to sign up the week of Thanksgiving. I think it was Tuesday. So we paired everybody up and sent everybody out on Wednesday, the whatever day that was, the 24th. So we paired up. We didn't give people the option to pick the animals, and everybody seemed to be fine with that. Of course, some people were not able to be paired up, and those who did not get a paired animal, we asked them if they were okay with being our on deck people, just in case somebody didn't pick up or didn't show up or backed out last minute, which was really helpful because we did have a few of those. So, and then here's just our couple of our advertisements, what we use. We hung this on the outside of our door, so even if we were closed, people could still sign up with a QR code. And then where's our SOP just kind of had everything that I would send to all the staff and volunteers so they know what's going on. The Monday before the holiday, everybody came in and helped bathe all the dogs, clip nails, make sure everybody was updated on vaccines and preventatives. And then we would get bags together for all the fosters. Everybody got a bag, whether they needed everything in it or not. It included blankets, bowls, toys, food, and then their foster folder for the holiday. Wednesday was pickup. We had dogs go in the morning so that our kennel techs could have enough time to deep clean all the kennels and empty everything out. And then cats went in the afternoon. And then pickup times were over at 1 o'clock. And if anybody was left over, that gave us time to reach out as a last minute plea. And then our stats, we had 70 people sign up altogether, and 51 people actually came to pick up animals. We had 67 animals that left the building for this program. There were 75 in the shelter in total. We purposely held back 3 due to bite cases and things like that. And then we just had 8 that didn't go, including those bite cases, but some of them were medical cases. Some people didn't want to do the ringworm kittens. But everything was able to go unless it was bite case. They were eligible to go unaltered as long as they had vaccines. Rabies really was all that we needed. They were able to go. We had 7 adoptions during the holiday period. 4 of them were foster fails. And then total number of animals that left for the entire holiday or that were out of the shelter for the holiday was 94% of our animals. And then 39 animals stayed after the holiday period and 28 came back. So that was cool. We handed a handbook out with everybody that just kind of went over, you know, things to keep in mind. Don't let your cats outside. Dogs should not be off leash, no dog parks. Again, keep feeding and bedtime separate from personal animals. And then what to do if you have any questions or anything, how to get a hold of me, different hashtags to use for posting about them, pet safe foods, a little recipe you can make for dogs if you wanted to. Again, emergency, what to do, email if it was like less severe cases, and direct phone call if it was an emergency or trauma. If they wanted to adopt, how to do that. If they want to continue fostering them through longer than the holiday period, how to do that. QR codes. I just love QR codes because it's so simple for everybody to just go right to a link. If they found somebody else, family member or whoever to adopt while they had this animal, how to do that. And that was pretty much it. It was good. It was successful. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
Oh my gosh. So we have questions, some questions in the chat. A lot of people want to know about the handbook and including myself. I would love to be able to put a copy in the Google Drive. You did a great job.
Yeah, I'll share the drive link in the comments in just a second. But yeah, it was good. And for only being our second year, it worked out well. It was really nice having all the volunteers included too. And we had the staff do the pairing. It was me and 2 other staff members that kind of helped with pairing all the animals. Luckily, we had a lot of people that signed up that don't have any other animals in the home. So that worked out in our favor. And a lot of people that could take multiple kittens. And all of our heartworm positive dogs went. All of our URI kittens went. So it was good.
Awesome. Jaden, did you have a question? And we also had
I
another
was-
question. Sorry,
I'm
about
so
the percentage of cats versus dogs, but Jaden, go ahead and go first.
I was actually wondering how you recruited volunteers to help you with stuff like that. At the facility I am the foster program coordinator for, our volunteers just do like our general cleaning and then dog walking and enrichment, but I am wanting to like involve them in our foster program more, as in just maybe helping with phone calls, emails, stuff like that. And so I'm kind of wondering how you how you got them to help you with just the overall advertising and organizing of that.
So within our
Events.
foster program, we already have volunteer opportunities such as foster assistant, and that's just somebody who comes in, or she don't even have to come in, she can do it from home, and just helps me keep up to date with certain things, help make social media posts, attach photos into Shelter Love that fosters posts on our Facebook page and things like that, and people who help with getting pictures of fosters. And we had our foster coordinator send out an email all about SMAP and how many volunteers we needed roughly. And they all came in, they were happy to help and be a part of it. So, and we use Logistics. So she just sent a mass thing out through that.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, other questions? The percentage of cats versus dogs.
Oof. You know what? I don't know if I even have that. Hold on. I have the percentage of people that signed up to pick up dogs we had 47 people sign up for dogs, 31 people sign up for cats. I don't have the percentage on which left. I'm sorry about that, but I can get that.
No worries. Other questions? We have like maybe time for like 1 or 2 more. And if we don't, we can probably go back to also Julie Lonnie's question for Christopher about the dogs.
Yeah.
What was the
Hi,
question?
Yeah. Hi, Christopher. I was just wondering, you only work with 3 shelter for this pilot study, right? But there's 12 shelter altogether. So how many dogs are there in those?
Oh gosh, there's over 720, I think, right now. And then that's including adoptable ones on stray holds, ones that are not available for public adoption. They're either being behaviorally assessed or already placed rescue only. So there's well over like 720 total in Orange. Like I said, we're the 3rd most populated in California. So we have a lot of people. Orange County is like one of those unspoken kind of counties in terms of the need for animal welfare. We got Riverside just above us in LA, and they're usually, if it was on that Maddie's phone call this morning, LA County is always the most talked about, and they need a lot of help. But like Orange County, we literally have the 3rd most populated county in Orange County, and we're 25% the size of LA County. So it's like we're weird climate over here, basically.
That's great. And I have another question.
Mhm.
So this is the first year that you actually tried this pilot study, right?
Yeah, well, this, like I said, this was just an experiment for our private shelter. We're primarily a foster-based rescue, but actual animal rescue is like a fraction of what we do. That's not really where we focus on. And we just did it as an experiment. Literally at the beginning of November, we were talking about talking with different organizations. Everyone's talking about what they're going to do for Giving Tuesday. And we really don't do fundraisers or donation rallies to that extent, just because a lot of what we do is more effort based. So we're not really looking for funding and donation. So it was like, well, let's just get some of our dogs the heck out of the shelter for a week or two. And we just put a very small low-key post out there. And because of the amount of requests we got, that we couldn't satisfy, like we just have our larger base dogs at our rescue shelter. And then we had a lot of people looking for like elderly dogs. They would be willing to foster small dogs. And so we just reached out to a few of our routinely supportive shelters. Each shelter is different. There's some that are really trying to be more progressive, but they just lack the resources. Those are the ones we give the most amount of help for. If they're trying to be better, we'll do whatever we can to get them to that level. And so we let them know what's available. And this is something, like I said, we've done prior. It went to the wayside the end of 2019. But this is something that we used to previously do for temporary fostering. So we had the same curriculum. It's just something that went dormant for our shelter support services.
I have a follow-up question. Let's see, how do I ask? What would you change? Would you change anything at all from what you learned with this pilot program?
Not necessarily. I'm glad we did it small because this took up my Thanksgiving. And again, we could have done it at a much more basic scale, but just because of the fact we were we're asking the shelters to put in a little bit risk, and it's risk aversion is, that's one of the primary requisites. So we were a little more effort based in making sure that dog was in a good matchmaking process and went to a home. So I don't necessarily think we would have done anything directly different. Had I known we would have gotten this much exposure, we might have rallied up some additional support ahead of time, because we were coming in after the fact going, hey, I got like 30 more other people we're looking at that are putting in applications. Would you like to help out? If we kind of, knowing now what we have, we could have been a little more proactive in getting that connection and, preparing some pets in advance.
Thank you. No, that's great.
Yes, thank you all so much. This has been wonderful, and speakers, can't thank you enough. You have some wonderful programs that I'm really excited to be able to share with everybody. So thank you. And next month we don't have our topic yet, so I will let you know as soon as possible. And have a wonderful holiday, everybody. Thank you.
Come on, guys.